Hello and welcome to the Big Picture podcast. My name's PJ Lynch. This week I've been up in Kells, County Meath at the Hay Festival, Kells. It's a terrific book festival that they put on there. And I was appearing with my old friend Siobhán Parkinson. Siobhán was the first Laureate in Oak. She's a very well-known author, and as well as that, she's a publisher. So we were there to talk about this book, Once Upon a Place. It's compiled by Owen Colfer, and I did the illustrations for it. So Siobhán was talking about how the project came together and about her own story within the book, and I was talking about how I came to do the pictures for it, and I did a little bit of demonstration of the technique as well. Here's what happened.
We were all asked to write a story that was set in a place, and when I was a child, we moved house an awful lot, so I don't have a sense of a place that is my own. But then I thought, well, a lot of people would probably write about their home place, but there are other kinds of places that people have connections with as well. And then I thought about how, when I was a child, I spent a lot of my holidays in the same place. Even though we moved house a lot, I always came back to Bray, County Wicklow, which is very near Dublin, because that's where my grandparents lived at the time. Now, when I was a child in Bray,
I'm doing a very quick drawing of Bray, just while you're talking.
There's one thing we do go to the beach, of course, and another thing we do climb up Bray Head. And I used to hear people talking about a place in Bray Head called the Eagle's Nest. So, of course, if somebody calls a place the Eagle's Nest, what do you think it is? You think it's a place where there's a nest that an eagle has made, don't you? But actually, the Eagle's Nest wasn't a real nest. It's only when I grew up that I realised that the Eagle's Nest used to be a restaurant on the top of Bray Head, and it was just called the Eagle's Nest because it was high up. That was kind of the person who owned the place called it that. And then the other thing that I knew from my childhood in Bray was that there was a thing called the chairlift. Do you know what a chairlift is? It's a bit like a ski lift, a bit like those kind of cable cars people go up the Alps on. So, in the bit of a story I'm going to read to you now in a minute, you'll hear mention of a chairlift. And you'll also hear mention of the eagle, because, as I say, as a child, I thought that the Eagle's Nest really was a nest belonging to an eagle. What's happening here is the dad is telling a story to the children, and he got to the point where he's now given up on the story, and he thought it was just snoozing. And the children are waiting for the story to continue, and nothing's happening. So they're getting quiet, okay? And there's two girls in the story, they're called Sophie and Lottie. That's no good, said Sophie. You can't just stop in the middle of the story. I'm not stopping, said Dad. I am just taking a thinking break. The girls waited for the thinking break to be over. But it went on and on and on. And in the end, Lottie said, you could make an island out of stones. What for? Asked Sophie. To dance on, said Lottie, starting to pile up some of the large grey cobbles that were strewn around on the strand. Sophie added some more stones to the island and said, the top has to be smooth for the dancing, so you have to choose the flattest ones for that. So they danced on their island for a while, and then they dug to Australia for a while. But they'd done that before, and they knew that you only get to damp sand, not to anywhere with kangaroos. So they gave up before too long. Then they buried Dad. That was the best part of the day so far. When Dad suddenly went on, unburying himself, the eagle came flying down from Bray Head and landed on a stone island on the beach that some wonderfully inventive engineers had built. That's us, said Lottie. She loved it when Dad put them in the story. We're engineers, Sophie. Dancing ones. And the story, I should say, is called The Dancing Engineers. So the eagle said to the engineers, it talks? Asked the two girls together. Only English said that. It's an uneducated sort of an engine, sort of an ego. But luckily, engineers learn English at school. So anyway, Dad continued. The eagle said, "We've got to fly to Laureate and look out to sea all the way to the hill of hope, where the lighthouse winks at me all night long. I fancy even lifting up me, to be honest." "We couldn't," said Lottie. "We'd be too heavy for the eagle." "You would fly a chariot," said the eagle, "and I would fly by wings and air." "Chariot?" asked the girls. "Does it work?" The eagle winked at them by the lighthouse and said, "Follow me." And before you could say Jack Robinson, Sophie and Lottie were strapped in side by side in a thing like a fairground ride, and the chairlift drifted silently, gently, up and away, over the railway line and the sweep of the bay, and they could see the tent-shaped kiosk way down below, and the flared conical roof of the bandstand. And down the beach, Dad sat, hunched by a stone island, and waved up at them, and their hair was in their mouths with the wind, and they were gliding and gliding on the air. And if you want to know what happened next, you'll have to read the story. And if you want to read the story, you have to beg, buy, borrow, or steal Once Upon a Place.
I don't know.
Is Bray. Maybe we might.
It's not Bray anymore.
Well,
I gotta get rid of the cross as well.
It's Midnight Ireland. Yeah.
How long does it take to do a drawing? Well, the drawings in the book, there's a lot, you'll have to count them. But I had 3 months to do it. That's about a little bit longer than your summer holidays. And I think I did, 50, 60 drawings.
Yeah.
So I spent about a day or two on each drawing. But I've gotten to be very quick at it. And this one hopefully will be finished in half an hour. Do you like to draw? You're quicker than me though, aren't you? Yeah, I bet you are. I think that this sort of taught me, working on this book with you guys, sort of taught me that I was spending far too long doing books.
And they're just as good if you do them quickly.
Yeah, because this it was a really fun book to work on, and I think everyone liked the book whenever it came out, and I thought, you know what, I'd love to do more books as quick as that.
Yeah.
How long did it take to get everything for the Once Upon a Place? How long did that take?
That's a very good question, because Once Upon a Place is what I was saying earlier, is quite a complicated project. And Roman, you want to remember that when I do put that together?
I think it only took about 8 months to pull the entire book together, between asking people to write stories and giving them some time to write, and we had to wait for the stories to be ready before we could then bring the stories to PJ. So we were kind of feeding him stories as they were coming in, and kind of taking some people to hurry up, and then, praising the people who got them in on time, and some of them we had to kind of edit a bit, and some of them were ready to go as soon as they arrived.
Yeah. And also we had to think then, another thing we had to think about was what order the stories would go in. And we talked to Owen a bit about that, and we wanted to have, because you're trying to imagine the person who buys the book or picks up the book in the library or whatever, and what they, how they're going to react with the book, how they're going to interact with the book. So we had to do a bit of thinking about that as well, and lay out the content. So we wanted to have stories from different parts of the country represented. We didn't have put them all to cluster together in one place. We wanted to spread the line. We wanted to have stories by men and women. And I think it's just by chance. We had pretty well exactly the same number of male and female authors. And then we had to get the stories laid out, and we had to take PJ's drawings and the text and put them together, and that's a job that took about book designer. So there's a lot of stages, and then we had to get it printed, and that took time as well.
So we have some more questions.
Yeah, good.
What does the P stand for, Peter?
Aha, that's a good question.
I bet you can guess. What would you guess? Patrick? Yeah, that's it. Can anyone guess what the J is? James. Yeah. Patrick James. That's a good question.
I think Patrick is nicer than P, you have to say. I really like Patrick.
What are your top tips for working with charcoal?
Top tips for work. Very good.
Wear an apron, wear an apron.
Wear an apron, yeah. You're going to get dirty. Well, I have a go with it first. My very top tip is don't start on white, start on grey. Okay?
You mean the background?
Yeah. So work on a piece of grey. This is just packing cardboard. It's very easy to get. And if if we get something big delivered to the house, it usually comes with cardboard, and I usually draw all over it. So
It's very economical of you.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you can also buy this stuff from art shops, and it's not very expensive. So, or else you can use grey paper.
And why do you say you use grey, PJ?
Because if you start on white, you see the great thing about charcoal is you can go all the way from very dark. Look, that's as black as it goes. And the fun part that I usually save to the end is white chalk, right? And can you see how white that is? It's not really showing up on the screen there, but you can probably see it. Do you see that? Now that gives you the full range
That's why.
all the way from white to black, and that's the full range that you get with a good photograph.
And that's better on a grey background than on a white background.
And you can imagine if I tried to do that on a white paper, it would. But that was a very good question. And the other top tip is that I use plastic erasers. I cut them into square shapes, and then they're really good for you just rubbing very straight lines and very detailed lines like this. And that's meant to look like, the sea coming in and the shapes of the rocks here. So all you need is white chalk, black charcoal, a square-edged rubber like that, and a grey surface to work on, and you get great results. It's
I think
really.
you've given so many tips now you might have a rival.
Pardon?
You've given so many tips now you might have a rival.
Well,
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, I'd love. Who asked the question? Are you an artist? Do you draw? Have you used charcoal?
Sometimes, but it usually goes a bit smudgy.
It is. It's very smudgy. Here's another top tip. This is the third tip, all for one question. Use an easel, because I used to draw flat on my desk, and I'd get it all over my arms and all over my clothes. So use an easel and keep it upright. The good thing about charcoal is that if you look where I'm going to, it just lifts right off. It's just sitting on the surface waiting to fly off if it can. So when you finish the drawing, it's very hard to store them because the charcoal comes right off. So you have to fix it, and hairspray, the way it holds people's hair in place, it also holds charcoal
Have
in
you got
place.
a preferred brand? Maybe we better not give any.
No, I use fixative from art shops, but
So when you're stuck,
hairspray is good if you're stuck.
Okay, we have another question.
Who did you become an author and an illustrator?
Well, I always wanted to be an artist of some sort, and I didn't know much about the art world, and I went to art college. And when I was at art college, they asked me to try lots of different things like photography and printmaking. And when I tried illustration, I thought, oh, this is the thing for me, because I loved doing pictures that tell stories, and I found that I was a sort of a natural illustrator. I wasn't interested in doing pictures, just a landscape. For me, it had to have, a figure in it to hint at a story or to tell a story. So I think I found I was a natural illustrator in that way, and I after art college, I started going around to see publishers, and they started giving me jobs to illustrate books. So that I've been doing it ever since.
And there's no such thing as a writing college, really, although there is nowadays. When I was young, you couldn't really go to writing college, so you just went to university and studied. You did the nearest thing you could, which would be studying English literature, which is what I did. Nowadays, there's still no writing college, but you can actually very often, depending on where you go to college, you can take courses in creative writing. It's becoming much more a thing. It's very big in the States now. And it's beginning to happen in our universities here as well. So people who want to be writers, that's one way you can become a writer. But the thing about being a writer, or even an illustrator, it's true to say, you don't actually have to be, you don't have to have a particular, you don't have to have a particular kind of qualification. Maybe more so for an illustrator, but for a writer, you just have to write. So the first thing you have to do is write, and the second thing you have to do is be published. Although you can still be a writer without being published, you're just an unpublished writer. But if you want people to read your writing, usually the best thing is to be published. So the first thing you do is write, the second thing you do is find a publisher. And that sounds very good and easy, yet that's very difficult to find a publisher. The thing about finding a publisher is you have to find a publisher who actually likes what you write. It's not enough that what you write is good, it also has to be that somebody likes enough to want to publish it. So that's how you become a writer, really. As an author, you write, and then you find a publisher who likes what you do, and then the publisher publishes what you do, and then you're an author. Because an author really is a writer who has been published.
Hey, another question.
Do you have a favorite theme?
When I start to write, do I know what I'm going to write about? Is that what you mean? I usually don't know what I'm going to write. Sometimes I might have a little bit of a glimmer of an idea. I wouldn't say I have a whole idea, I might have about a quarter of an idea. But I usually don't have much sense of what I'm going to write. And I find that as I write, I discover the story. So I just sit down and I write a sentence, and I look at the sentence for a long time, and then I think, well, that's a good sentence. Is there another sentence I could think of? I might go after that sentence, and then I do that. And then eventually there's a page. And by the time there's a page, I'm beginning to get a sense of what the story is going to be. But then there's a chapter. And then I have a much better idea of what the story is going to be like. And then there's 2 or 3 chapters, and then I'm away. So a lot of writers are very good about having a plan before they start. And ideally, it's better if you have a plan. And if I could plan, I would. So my advice to everybody else is plan your stories. But in practice, I don't do that because it doesn't work for me. If I sit down to plan a story, it won't happen. I have to actually start writing.
What inspires you to write stories?
So usually, as I say, really what happens is I just start writing. And I suppose what makes me do it, maybe that's what might be another way of saying it, or asking the question, what makes you want to write stories? Why do you write stories? Is because I really love doing it. I love the process of writing sentences, and I love playing with words and looking at, and listening to how a sentence sounds, and trying to make it the best sentence it can be, and the next sentence the best sentence it can be. And that's how I think as a writer. I think about sentences, I think about words, I think about how they go together and what the rhythm is, and then eventually the story kind of builds up from that.
Where do you write and do drawings? Do you do it in your house, or do you go out and do it somewhere else?
I used to work from my house, and then I found that I wasn't really getting enough work done, so I took a studio in a building where there's lots and lots of different artists, and it's really good because I can lock myself in my room and work away, or else I can come out and have a coffee and chat about work with the other artists. So that it suits me not to work from home. So what about you, Siobhán?
I work at home, yeah, and I'm very lucky because I have a room of my own that I write in. And I also do other kinds of work, but in theory, it's my working room and the attic room of the house. And it's a long way because you have to climb up 2 sets of stairs to get there. So people don't come and bother me very often. So I'm much happier to write at home in my own room. But lots of authors like going out. I know lots of people like to go sit in a coffee shop and sit there and talk away on their computer in a noisy area. I don't know. I like doing that.
Well, that's how J.K. Rowling wrote the Harry Potter
That's
books,
right.
didn't it?
That's
And Mary Louise Fitzpatrick, who wrote one of the stories in this book, she spends a lot of time in coffee shops. So I think if you really want to write, you'll be able to do it wherever.
You find your own way, whatever suits you.
I think with illustration, you might need a bit more space and privacy. So.
Yeah.
I have a book that you wrote,
Yeah.
and it's called The Boy Who Fell Off the Mayflower.
Oh, that's a book that I wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you like it?
Yeah.
Because that's the only book I've written. I've illustrated 25 books. And after 30 years of illustrating, I decided I was going to have a go at writing because I was so impressed with people like Siobhán. And I hadn't actually tried it myself. And finally I did it. And I wrote The Boy Who Fell Off the Mayflower. Yeah. A lot of people die in that book, don't they? Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of book. The captain of the ship, he ends up dead. Yeah, lots of people end up dead. But I'm glad you liked it. Thanks for mentioning that.
Maybe one at the back.
So what's the next question, just while I'm finishing up?
Is your favorite author?
Well, I'm going to be very predictable and say Jane Austen. I know everybody, every female answers Jane Austen, but I do really love Jane Austen, and I did as a young reader as well. I read Jane Austen in my teens, so I'm a big fan of Jane Austen, and my favourite book of hers is Anna. What about you, PJ?
Well, I love Siobhán's books. They're
Oh.
really brilliant.
Oh, wow. I love you too.
And I really did enjoy working on this book because there are a lot of authors who I really admire are in it, including Roddy Doyle's probably somebody I've read almost everything he's ever written, and he's very good writing for children as well as for adults.
Yeah, he writes both, yeah.
Yeah, Owen Colfer is a favourite of mine as well, and I love the J.K. Rowling stories, the Harry Potter ones. So lots of different people. Nearly finished, guys.
What are you going to do with your
Yay!